So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
You think so?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, they wouldn't be my friends.
Stop everything right now, because this might be the most explosive moment in Braxton family history. Toni Braxton has finally broken her silence. And what she's allegedly revealing about Towanda has sent shockwaves.
Burden on you as the one that made it out. But you gotta be willing to let them fly.
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me.
Through the internet. For years, fans whispered that something wasn't right behind the scenes, missing money. Strange power moves, silent tension during interviews, but no one expected this. According to insider claims, Toni is done protecting secrets, done playing the strong sister.
50 million in sales and you got $1,972? Is that right?
That's right.
And done staying quiet while her name and finances were allegedly being drained from the inside. Sources say the breaking point came after a private confrontation that ended in tears. Raised voices and accusations so serious they could permanently fracture the family. Screenshots of alleged messages are circulating. A leaked voice note is rumored to exist. And social media is already on fire, asking one terrifying question. Was Tamar right all along? Fans are revisiting old clips, pausing scenes, analyzing body language, and connecting dots they once ignored. Every awkward smile, every tense silence now feels like a warning we missed.
13 and 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell. Her back was really messed up, so she was in hospital a long time. And so I was a surrogate parent for a moment.
Where was Dad?
Working, had to make a living at 6 kids.
Toni's pain, once hidden behind Grammys and Grace, is now spilling into the open end. It's raw, emotional, and impossible to ignore. If these allegations are true, the Braxton sisterhood may never recover. And the most chilling part, Toni hasn't said everything yet. Insiders claim what's coming next could expose years of betrayal, financial manipulation, and a truth that changes how we see Towanda forever. Stay right here, because once this story starts unfolding, there's no turning back, and the next revelation could be the one that blows the entire Braxton legacy wide open. The silence didn't just break, it detonated. When Toni Braxton finally spoke, it wasn't in a polished interview or a PRA-approved statement. It was a raw, late-night voice memo allegedly sent to a close confidant that somehow found its way into the wrong hands. And once those words leaked, there was no putting the lid back on. According to insiders, Toni's voice was shaking, exhausted, stripped of the grace she's been forced to perform for decades. "I carried everybody," she allegedly said. "And now I'm realizing some people weren't leaning."
They weren't leaning on you. What would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Oh, I would have soared higher.
Leaning. They were taking. That single sentence lit a fuse across social media. Fans immediately assumed she meant the industry. They were wrong, because the next wave of whispers pointed directly inside the family, straight at Towanda. Sources close to the Braxtons' claim. The tension had been boiling quietly for years.
That you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this, because it would appear, and you can explain to us whatever you want to explain to us, but it would appear that even if you don't believe that you got the percentage that you felt that you got, you still knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in. And exactly. And you overspent that amount of money.
Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long, all across.
Hidden behind prayer circles, group chats, and reality TV edits. But something shifted recently. A routine financial review allegedly tied to an upcoming project exposed inconsistencies that couldn't be explained away anymore. Payments approved without full disclosure. Expenses signed off in Toni's name that she didn't remember authorizing. Small amounts at first, easy to ignore, easy to forgive, until they weren't small anymore. According to one insider, Toni asked one question that changed everything. "Why is my money moving when I'm not?" That question reportedly triggered an explosive confrontation behind closed doors. Witnesses say the room went ice cold. Towanda didn't yell. She didn't deny it outright. She allegedly said, "I was handling things like I always do." And that's when Toni broke. Not scream.
Because I allowed all my finances to become everyone else's finances. That's pretty much how I got.
Screamed broke. Years of being the provider, the fixer, the savior came crashing down at once. She reportedly reminded Towanda of the decades she paid rent. Legal fees, child support help, studio time, lawyers, accountants, even groceries, all without keeping score. "I never invoiced my love," she allegedly said, "but you itemized my sacrifice." That line alone has been quoted thousands of times on Twitter. Even though Toni has never said it publicly, the internet immediately dragged Tamar into the conversation. And that's where things got messier. Fans resurfaced old clips where Tamar warned that Toni was being.
None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said,
This is before Vincent.
Before Vince, Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with Mommy car insurance.
Being used. Where she hinted that certain siblings felt entitled to Toni's success. At the time, Tamar was labeled dramatic, bitter, jealous. Now those same clips feel prophetic. One viral edit shows Tamar saying, "Y'all don't know what she does behind the scenes." Cut against Toni years later saying, "I feel angry at everybody in my family." The comments exploded. Tamar tried to tell us. They gaslit Tamar for years. Toni finally sees it. Then came the alleged receipts. Screenshots began circulating of what insiders claim are old emails showing Towanda managing accounts connected to Toni's projects. Nothing blatantly criminal, just enough gray area to make people uncomfortable. Transfers labeled as reimbursements, vague descriptions, missing follow-ups. One leaked message allegedly shows Toni asking for clarification and getting a delayed defensive response. Another rumored voice note captures Toni whispering,
At this stage in my life, I'm exhausted on my sister's behavior.
"I don't even recognize my own finances anymore." Whether real or not, the damage was done. The narrative was running faster than the truth could catch it. Towanda, for her part, reportedly felt blindsided. People close to her claimed she believed she was doing what the family had always done, surviving together. She allegedly told friends that Toni agreed to everything at the time. That nothing was hidden, that this was being twisted now that emotions were high. But here's where the betrayal cuts deepest. Insiders say Toni wasn't just upset about money. She was devastated by the realization that her trust had been normalized as access, that her generosity had quietly turned into expectation as the story.
I respect where people are. That's just.
Is that why?
I respect where people are. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy. I make different choices in my life. And that's just where I am.
Story spiraled, old wounds reopened. Conversations about Toni's bankruptcies resurfaced not as jokes, but as context. Fans started asking how a woman who sold over 70 million records could end up filing twice. Industry exploitation explained part of it. Health crises explained part of it. But now people were asking the unthinkable: how much of that financial bleeding happened at home? A former associate allegedly claimed Toni once covered a family emergency while actively negotiating with creditors, choosing her sisters over herself yet again. She always chose family first, the associate said, even when it cost her everything. Social media became a war zone. Some fans defended Towanda, calling the accusations unfair, saying family finances are complicated and private. Others were ruthless, accusing her of entitlement, manipulation, even theft, despite no official claims being made. Hashtags split the fandom in half. Old interviews were dissected frame by frame. One moment where Towanda says, "I don't pour into certain energy anymore," was suddenly recast as cold, calculated distance. Meanwhile, Toni went quiet, no posts, no likes, no statements. That silence felt louder than any denial. Behind the scenes, insiders claim the sisters attempted mediation. It didn't go well. One source says Toni walked out after realizing the conversation kept circling back to her responsibility to understand.
And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone, but she's been here with us for 50 years. So I try to relish in that moment, and I try to smile about it and just be grateful for the time you have. And you have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do, okay? It's the rite of passage to fuss and fight, but in the end, we're always there.
To forgive, to move on without anyone fully acknowledging her pain. They still see her as the strong one, the source said, and she's tired of being strong. Tamar allegedly supported Toni privately, telling her, "You don't owe anyone access just because you survived." That alone reignited old resentment, with some family members accusing Tamar of poisoning the well. Then came the moment no one expected. During a closed-door production meeting for the next phase of the show, Toni allegedly made it clear she was done discussing finances on camera. According to someone in the room, she said, "I won't bleed for ratings." That statement reportedly halted filming entirely. Producers panicked. Contracts were reviewed. Lawyers were looped in. Because if Toni really talked, it wouldn't just shake the family. It would expose a system that thrived on her silence. Towanda's last public move before going quiet only fueled speculation. A cryptic post about misunderstood loyalty went up, then disappeared. Fans screenshot it within minutes. The damage was instant. Was it guilt? Defensiveness? Or just exhaustion? No one knows. What they do know is that the Braxton dynamic has shifted permanently. Toni isn't playing peacemaker anymore. She's not smoothing things over. She's not covering gaps. And insiders swear this story is only half told, because according to multiple sources, there's one document Toni hasn't addressed yet, a paper trail that allegedly explains why she finally snapped, and why this time forgiveness might not be on the table. And if that document ever sees daylight, it won't just change how fans see Towanda. It could change how the entire Braxton legacy is remembered. By the time dawn hit, the damage was already irreversible. What started as whispers had turned into a full-blown narrative storm. And at the center of it all was one question nobody in the Braxton family wanted to answer out loud. If Toni wasn't lying, then who was? According to insiders, Toni spent days replaying years of memories with a clarity that felt cruel. Every time she said yes when she wanted to say no. Every check she signed without asking questions. Every moment she convinced herself that being needed meant being loved. And once that illusion cracked, everything underneath it started to rot. Sources claim the real unraveling didn't happen during the confrontation with Towanda. It happened afterward, in silence. Toni allegedly requested copies of documents she'd never personally reviewed before. Old agreements, internal emails, expense summaries that were never meant to be revisited. And while nothing screamed crime, the pattern was devastating. Decisions made on her behalf. Money moved in her name. Commitments entered without her full consent. One insider described it as death by 1,000 assumptions. Not malicious in intent, maybe, but catastrophic in impact. Toni allegedly said, "I didn't realize how much of my life I handed over just so I wouldn't have to fight my own family." That's when Tamar's shadow loomed large again. According to people close to the situation, Tamar wasn't shocked. She was angry not at Towanda, but at the family system that normalized Toni's sacrifice and punished anyone who questioned it. Tamar reportedly reminded Toni of the times she herself was called ungrateful, unstable, dramatic for speaking up. "They only like the truth when it's quiet," she allegedly said. And suddenly, Toni understood why Tamar always looked like she was fighting an invisible war. The family didn't fear conflict. They feared accountability. Meanwhile, Towanda's camp pushed back hard, quietly but strategically. Friends of hers began telling bloggers that Toni was rewriting history, that she'd approved everything, that this narrative was unfair and dangerous. They painted Towanda as the responsible one, the organizer. the sister who handled the unglamorous work while Toni enjoyed the spotlight. And that argument landed with some fans. After all, managing chaos doesn't look like stealing. But the internet doesn't live in nuance. It lives in sides. And once the phrase alleged theft entered the conversation, no explanation felt strong enough to erase it. The tension escalated when a supposed insider leak hit social media. An alleged transcript of a voicemail Toni left after another failed family conversation. In it, she reportedly says, "I'm tired of being the solution to problems I didn't create." That line went viral within hours. People weren't even debating money anymore. They were debating emotional labor, oldest daughter syndrome, Black women being raised to survive instead of be supported. Toni became a symbol overnight. And symbols don't get the luxury of privacy. Behind closed doors, insiders say the family fractured into quiet alliances. Trina tried to play mediator, urging everyone to step back before saying something irreversible. But mediation only works when power is balanced, and for the first time, Toni wasn't willing to absorb the imbalance anymore. She allegedly told one relative, "I don't want peace if it costs me myself." That sentence alone terrified the family because it meant the old rules no longer applied. Toni wasn't chasing harmony. She was choosing boundaries. Producers reportedly scrambled. This wasn't the storyline they signed up for. Emotional conflict was fine. Financial accusations were radioactive. Lawyers allegedly advised silence across the board. That's why Toni didn't clarify. Why Towanda didn't explain. Why Tamar stopped hinting and went quiet. But silence doesn't stop speculation, it feeds it. Fans dug deeper, pulling clips where Toni joked about being broke, moments that now felt tragic instead of funny. They replayed scenes where Towanda handled logistics, now scrutinized under a harsher lens. Context collapsed under suspicion. Then came the most destabilizing rumor yet. Multiple gossip accounts claimed Toni had decided to step away completely from the show. From joint projects, from shared finances, indefinitely. No announcement. No farewell. Just distance. According to a source, Toni said, "If I stay, I'll keep bleeding." That single decision changed everything. Because the family brand doesn't function without her gravity. And for the first time, she was willing to let it fall apart if that's what healing required. Towanda's response, according to insiders, wasn't rage, it was grief. People close to her say she felt erased, misunderstood, reduced to a villain in a story that had no heroes. She allegedly questioned how loyalty could be recast as exploitation overnight. And in private moments, she reportedly asked, "Why am I always the one people assume the worst about?" That pain is real, regardless of where the truth ultimately lands, which is what makes this situation so combustible. Everyone is hurt. But not everyone is hurt equally. The internet, of course, picked favorites. Some crowned Toni as finally awakened. Others warned against destroying family over money. Tamar's name trended again, with fans claiming she was vindicated at last. Tamar was right became less of a question and more of a declaration. And that, more than anything, may be what sealed the rift. Because being right in this family has always come at a cost. As days passed with no resolution, one last twist surfaced. A source claimed there was an off-camera moment during filming where Toni looked directly at Towanda and said, "I love you, but I don't trust you with me anymore." True? That sentence explains everything. This isn't about theft. It's about trust, lost, bruised. Maybe permanently? Trust that money exposed, but didn't create now. The Braxton legacy sits at a crossroads. Fans want clarity. Media wants statements. But insiders say Toni isn't interested in convincing anyone anymore. She's choosing herself, something she was never allowed to do before. Towanda, meanwhile, remains quiet, possibly preparing to speak, possibly choosing peace. Tamar watches from the sidelines, knowing exactly how this ends, with truth, backlash, and freedom that comes too late. And the most haunting part. According to multiple sources, this isn't even the full story. There's still one conversation Toni hasn't shared, the one that made her realize silence was more dangerous than fallout. If that moment ever comes to light, it won't just answer who was right. It will force everyone to ask why it took so long for anyone to listen. If you've made it this far, don't look away now, because this story is bigger than one argument, bigger than one family, and bigger than one headline. What you've just heard isn't just about money or misunderstandings. It's about trust, silence, sacrifice. And the moment someone finally decides they're done carrying everyone else's weight. And the truth is, this chapter of the Braxton saga is still unfolding. Now I want to hear your voice. Do you believe Toni was taken for granted? Or do you think this family conflict has been blown out of proportion? Was Tamar warning everyone all along? Or is this a painful misunderstanding that never should have gone public? Drop your thoughts in the comments respectfully, honestly, and without fear, because these conversations matter more than ever. If this story moved you, shocked you, or made you rethink everything you thought you knew, hit that like button so more people can hear it. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications, because the next update, the next leak, or the next confession could come at any moment, and you don't want to miss it. When the truth shifts again, share this video with someone who understands family pressure, emotional labor, or what it feels like to always be the strong one. Because this isn't just celebrity drama, it's a mirror for so many real lives. Stay locked in. Stay curious. Stay honest. The Braxton story isn't over yet, and the next chapter could change everything. Chapter could change everything.